This is day 6 of the November 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. Here are the questions. What is self-consciousness? How can whatever skills, talents, creativity there be within me come out? I feel so much impediment. There is this wanting to be useful in a more than physical way. What does it mean to help others? Shouldn't we be helping others? What about the fact that depressive moods keep reoccurring and reoccurring? I used to think that I should be able to reach a state in which negative moods would never happen again, but it doesn't seem to be true. Should one be concerned about and prepare for the future? Have some financial security for old age? Is it intelligent to think or not to think about that and to do something about it? What is security? In the beginning of the retreat, you were talking about not becoming or wanting to become an authority for us. But I have realized that everything is my authority. My desires, fears, thoughts, emotions are all directing me in an authoritarian way. Is there any action which does not spring from authority? I have found that looking at thought, it disappears. How can I question into something that has disappeared? I'm getting into sort of a panic about this retreat coming to an end, what I'm going to do when I get home, how overwhelmed I am by thoughts, that I may probably not be cut out for meditating anyways, and I'm not a painter either. Actually, I'm good for nothing. And also, I don't like how I feel, and I'm spreading my moods to other people. And I pray I won't do it again, but I do it again. What is the good of anything? Here's another question. Should I have a career and security for old age? How can one stay open and say no to someone? It seems whenever I say no to someone, I feel so separate. There is in me the fear of the unknown. I'm not afraid of death, but I want to know where I am going. Actually, I didn't write down all the very similar ways in which participants here presented what thought streams were occurring and reoccurring, causing negative or depressive, hopeless or whatever moods, and then the conflict with these moods. It came up in quite a number of people. And as one listens to what is being described, the few I've tried to jot down as well as possible, as one listens to the content of what is being described, the content of the thought stream, what I'm thinking about, that I thought this would end, but it hasn't ended, this depression. One person describing, when I wake up, my first thought is, there is no hope, there's nothing to look forward to. I'm good for nothing, or nothing is good for anything. Even this meditation isn't. As thoughts like this are listened to and looked at, is one drawn into this whirlpool, this stream, looking for an answer to these thoughts, to their content, what they describe or seem to describe, the scenarios, what will happen to me or what could happen to me, what I am or not, how things haven't changed for me or how they are ever recurring, the same moods, the same attitudes, how I'm affecting others with it. In listening to all that, is one drawn into the stream, looking for a solution by thinking more about it. What's the good of it all if one thinks that? What is the good of anything? What impact does such a headline have? I have nothing to look forward to. What does that do to this organism? The future is bleak. There's no hope for me or for humanity. What does that do to make such a statement? Or to listen to such a statement appearing on the inner screen? It immediately mobilizes the body into all kinds of states and moods. Depressive, sad, fearful, panicky. Sadness, sorrow, mourning, grief. And then the function of thought being to think about things starts thinking more about it. Making more headlines, more storyline about it, more prognosis or looking back, adding memory from past incidents. And with that adding to the state of depression or sadness, fear or anger. Can one see that? Thought doesn't see it. That's clear. Thought cannot see. Thought can only think. And it's learned over ages, its learned function is to try to solve problems by thinking some more about it, not realizing that the problems have been created by itself. And thought doesn't see that. If there isn't, we have discussed this in meetings, if there is some intellectual understanding of it, or some resolve not to proceed with such futile behavior, it doesn't work. Because that's more thought about what I should be doing. And that what I'm doing is no good, isn't getting any place. But what is needed is to see this stuff. To see that thought cannot see. And therefore cannot bring a solution in psychological problems. Problems of fear, anger, insecurity. Thought itself is the creator of insecurity and then tries to solve it. It is the creator of insecurity because it creates the conviction that there is a separate me that needs to be something, become something. And all of it is imagery, remembrance. Thought is what me is all made up of, which is an unstable state of thought, image, remembrance, ideas for the future based on ideas from the past. And this insecure state created by thought is trying to defend, and is inevitably insecure. Thought has not just created the image, the feeling of me, but its whole world. Each one of us, a separate little world created by our separate thoughts. And these little separate worlds are in collision. Because I feel everybody should recognize and acknowledge and agree with my world of thought, of reality. And everybody thinks the same way. And in that there's tremendous insecurity. I have to constantly defend myself, convince myself and others. And we can't get on with each other on that basis. But coming back to the individual mood of panic or depression, negativity, frustration, resentment. How does it come into being? And how come it is believed in to be representing the truth? And then the same mechanism that creates it proceeding to try to fix it by thinking some more about it. Also by thinking that the moods that have been created and not related to this thinking, that these moods have to be gotten rid of, or fought, or fixed through thinking. That's why it seems so utterly essential to see how our moods come into being. Our psychological states of ecstasy or depression or despair, sorrow, sadness. To see the connection between remembrance, thought, and the connection between more thought and the perpetuation of this state. And the impossibility to fix it through more thinking. Technologically, we can fix things through thinking. In practical life, a lot of things can be thought out and then made real. But in our psychological moods, there has to be an insight. What creates it in the first place? And thought is incapable of insight. It can only keep on thinking and projecting more fears of the unknown, the future, my death. How will I continue? Some people worried, how will I continue alive? And some people worrying, how will I continue dead after dying? See what thought is doing? Trying to figure out what cannot be figured out. The future cannot be figured out. It can be speculated upon, imagined, but that is not what is going to happen. Very likely what is going to happen in the future is what is happening right now. Either clarity about what's happening or insecurity and confusion. And therefore, the wrong means toward an imagined end. And it's not that insight doesn't happen, that there doesn't come an awakening to that thought has been running and how one feels. But instantly there is a barrage, a landslide of new thoughts. I shouldn't have thought this way. Why do I keep falling into this pit? And with that, the pit is there. By now, coming to retreat so many years, I should by now have a clear mind. Some people ask me in meetings, do you ever daydream? Do you ever have thoughts? One person said, are you 100% aware? Do I have to answer this? Of course I'm not. I knew one person who said, I'm 90% aware. I wondered what he was doing the rest of the 10%. I've found through being concerned with this for many, many years, it's not a passing fancy for me, not a casual interest, it's my whole life. And has been for a long time, long before Zen training was started, was I concerned with questions of meaning or meaninglessness and the moods that this thought evoked, that there's no meaning to life. It zaps you, not just in the solar plexus, but all over. No meaning in this utterly meaningless life. So why am I here? Why am I alive? Without feeling suicidal about it, never did. But utterly lost in the quandary of what was meaning of this killing each other, warring, persecution, and so forth, torturing, and all the sadness and sorrow and unhappiness. But what has been emerging is an ever clearer and understanding of what thought does and what thought cannot do. And when upon waking up in the morning, which I'm very familiar with, a zapping thought comes up, did I do something wrong? Or then to stop right there, to see that and not go on with a dead alley thinking process, which will only lead to anxiety, depression, fear, or resentment, anger, or whatever. To see it as quickly as possible and not proceed with that. If it isn't seen right away, then it does its mischief, and then the soup has to be eaten or has to be wiped up. It's spilled all over the place. And wiping up means looking at it, what has already been aroused in this ever so responsive body. To be with that without further input. This body cannot come to balance and equilibrium if it is constantly bombarded with more thoughts. So it takes some very quiet, spacious, gentle attention to what the body is manifesting, so it doesn't immediately project the thought, I don't like how I feel. I hate this. Or, it's even more subtle than that. A body which has been aroused in fear gives signals to the brain that something is there to be afraid of. So the brain will look for more things that it can be afraid of, more dangers. Because the body, which has been aroused through thought to manifest fear, now signals danger. All of this is observable if there's interest in it, a concern. There's no choice in looking. So to learn about, in an intelligent way, not thinking intelligence, but looking intelligence, what thought is incapable of doing. Because there is in us to everyone's utter amazement when it does happen, the capacity to see, not just to think. To see the inner screen, to see the headlines, to see how the solar plexus or intestines or head, chest or whatever responds to a weighted statement about myself or the others around me, my situation. We're all familiar with paranoid thoughts, that the others have it in for us, that we're being exploited or taken advantage of. And those statements have further input into the organism, further agitate it, and further cause conflict, because I don't want to feel this way, or I want to lash out and create more trouble by lashing out at someone else, out of a state of frustration or negativity, as it is called these days. So when there is a waking up, a coming to in this barrage of panic, as somebody said, feeling panic, there is a moment of awareness of this. Can it just remain simple? Just seeing what is going on? Beware of a new train taking off about what should have gone on or should be going on. That is sort of mental hygiene. And thought doesn't do it, but seeing does. Awareness, attention can just shed light. Attention has no comments. It's our programs that immediately run again. And to see that, to catch all of that, all of these subtleties and how they affect the body, and how the body affects our further thinking. That's one thing that can be said. To see and not immediately be taken in by what it is that is seen, but to see. That's the essential thing. Not what one sees. There's always something. And it usually is to our dislike in ourselves or others. But that there is some seeing is tremendous. And to leave it there, something is seen. The beauty of it, something that is truly happening right now is seen. And not get allured in reacting to the content. Which is habitual. It's programmed into us to react with criticism, with judgment, with new commands, shape up, get out of this, or all these headlines. Or trying to look to the environment or to outside causes who are doing us in. To be aware of that, to question that, to look again. And what about the question which has come up? Does this ever end? Will this always repeat itself? Will I have to go through? I've gone through this so many times. How many more times will I have to go through it? Meaning these moods and the inattention. And getting lost in it, and depressed, stuck, and obviously thought all it can imagine it is that this will last forever. I won't get out of it. That's sort of the typical thought when there's a feeling of stuckness. And the stuckness is already related to thinking about it. Because nothing is normally stuck except thought. The organism moves and changes if allowed to do that, but thought can be just like a cast in stone. It'll never change. It'll be the same. Or this sort of despaired feeling. It'll never end. Or Will it ever end? Meaning, it won't. Who knows? What can end is these kind of statements one makes to oneself. These kind of exclamations or punchlines. If something happens, one meets it. It's met. If it happens again, it's met freshly. And no need to go into lamentation that it's happened again, trying to count how many times it already has happened. It's all such toxic waste. One person said, I feel like a toxic waste dump. We worry about all of that, but all of our thinking has more than half-lives, smoldering along. But not when it's seen. When it's seen, the half-life is over. Like somebody said, if I see a thought, it's gone. And then comes the worry, I'm not questioning right, because I should question into this. And then the feeling, what is wrong with me? I'm doing something wrong. And the smoldering, the discontent or insecurity is back to life. So something comes up, maybe the same thought is the nothing to look forward to, I did something wrong. Whatever one's favorite wake-up thoughts are. I don't mean one chooses them, they're all programmed in here. Often depending on how our parents felt or our reaction against how our parents felt. Or wherever it comes from, doesn't matter, it's there. Can one not give so much credence to the content, but just see that thought? See if the mood is already there, meet it with no further input. Just take it into the bathroom and brush the teeth with it. And watch the toothbrushing. It's an interesting thing. How it feels, the brush, the paste, the foam, the teeth. The saliva running, maybe the water running, the back begins to ache bending over the sink. And in this kind of attention, pretty soon this wake-up thought and mood are gone. Not repressed, one didn't repress it, one saw it, and didn't lament about it, cry about it. Or fear about it, how many more times will it happen? The time is also a creation of thought. Has one ever looked at that? Time, the future, is a creation of thought. What will happen to me in the future is thought. The future is nowhere except in our imagination. There's only this moment. And what is happening this moment? Is there clarity about the confusion that's there, or about the inattention that just ceased because there was a moment of attention? That's what's happening, it's clear enough. Needs no further comment. And with no further comment than the running water, the toothbrush or whatever is happening, maybe sun pouring through the window, snow flurs, or a jay calling there from the tree. That's all there. It's neither the past nor the present nor the future, it's what's happening. And what happened earlier upon waking up has dissipated because it has no fuel. It's not taken at face value. actually the whole thing of looking forward to something is a certain addiction that the mind, thought has developed. Getting itself good fixes by thinking about something that may happen in the future. Which it happens with one thought and the good feeling is there. But can one see it and abstain from milking that process? Because it prevents being here, holy. And then when something happens, there may be, one's business may go out of business, or something may happen that has given one security, and now one hasn't anything to look forward to, or someone one has been very attached to has died, can't look forward to being with him or her anymore. Then the opposite is true from a fixed and becomes a depressive thought. So to become intelligent about all of this, so that intelligence will say no instantly. Doesn't need reflection. It sees the dead alley, it sees the contraction and is free of it. Not as easy when the thought has already run without attention, because then, as we have said many times, the whole body is an uproar. But it doesn't take the body that long to calm down if it's not constantly fueled with more comments about the state of myself and my environment and the world. So in all this, what about having some retirement in the future, some savings or pension? The question probably comes up for the people who have asked it. Well, is that totally unintelligent to think about this? Because the future is in imagination? Many people think about it, at least in a very limited part of this world. Can they think about it? There's no retirement in Africa or India for the masses of people. But here we have such possibilities of putting money aside, saving, or join a pension fund, or have a job where the company pays, if that company survives, or if the savings survive, the saving company survives, or the government is able to pay back. And also one day may say, I can't do it anymore. All these ifs, but if this is an important thing for one, then why doesn't one do it? And test out whether this eliminates the insecurity about the future. Right now may not be so easy. There is a recession. To get a job which has a good pension. And to know one can keep all of this, but one can try. My father-in-law, he worked for 52 years. He had a pittance of an income. And for some reason, by turning every penny over 10 times before he didn't spend it, and investing it, living very amazingly frugally, ended up with amazing savings. We still can't figure out how he did it. Turned the light off. He said, I'm not going to pitch pennies at the electric company. When he bought something, he weighed it out so he wouldn't pay another penny of tax if the weight went into the next tax bracket, buying a pound of bread or whatever, or meat. So that was his life, to save. And he saved. Never used it. We got it. But it's a separate question almost. Does this alleviate the feeling of insecurity now? And that can only be settled by understand how it's created. Like sometimes we say, go to the root of it. Where does it come from? What is it linked with? And can there be freedom from that? Worrying about myself and creating time in which myself may be poor or sick or dying and not knowing what will happen to me, and then the fear of the unknown. Can thought resolve the fear of the unknown? Let's just look at it together. Thinking, which is the very process of imagining and projecting, speculating, fantasizing. That's what thinking is. Projecting something, putting something out there. What dying is, that I'm dead, that this body isn't alive anymore, there's no thought anymore. Can thought really see that? Thought can only think how horrible, or how scary. Or I will go into paradise, or have next lives. Maybe I go to hell. Thought says that too. And then the fear of hell. Or a person says, I'm not afraid of hell, I'm afraid of the unknown. I don't know where I'm going to be going. What is going? What is it we want to go someplace or to continue? What are we thinking about? And what is that other than thought? The thought of me. As I know myself, remember myself, with all my possessions, in which I include my knowledge, family. That's the thought of me that wants to continue, isn't it? And the thought that this may not continue but end scares thought. Thought gets scared because it can't think. Dying, ending. Because it has to end in order to end. Thought has to end for ending to be. Dying is the ending of thinking about myself, isn't it? The ending of insecurity? Is that it too? The ending of thinking about myself, is that also the ending of insecurity, which goes inevitably with thinking about myself? I just don't know. I can't know what I am when I don't represent it in thought. There is this palpitating, alive organism, and that will end. We all know that. We've seen it, and it's a certainty. But that one person said, that's not what I'm afraid of. I want to know where I'm going. What I? Thought? Thought where thought is going, it's always going. It's been going for thousands of years. As long as human beings have been able to think, and some people say animals think too, as long as organisms have thought, thought is going, it's running. Always manifesting in a new organism. Eventually the little baby, the little toddler begins to think, I, me, fears and wants, represented in thought. So that's where thought is going. It's running all the time. And the question is, can it end? The thought about myself continuing. in the future, tomorrow, when I die, seeing the utter futility of this thought, that it can go nowhere except into imagination, which is not the truth. When that's seen and understood, that thought does not run. It loses its power. It's seen to be futile thinking. Because what one wants to continue is just futile thought about me and mine, always connected with insecurity, fear, apprehension, and desire for pleasure. Such a relief when at times this thought is quiet. This whole program is not energized, and the energy is here gathering and listening and looking to what's there, what's actually there. Including the thoughts that may be randomly cruising. Brain keeps pouring them out or not, it doesn't matter. They don't need to be taken so seriously. So can the anxiety-producing question, where am I going? Turn into, where am I now? And look and listen. We will end here for today.